Today, I am chatting with Pilar Khawaja, who graduated in 2024 and is now working as an investment banking analyst at Cain Brothers in New York City. She is here today to talk all things post-grad, how she nabbed that job right out of college, and what the move to the big city was like. So you are not going to want to miss this. Pilar, thank you so much for being here. My first question for you is just where did you go to college and what was your major?
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. So I went to Ohio State and I majored in finance and I minored in Spanish for business and I graduated in the class of 2024.
Okay, so recent grad, you are currently working in New York City. So tell us how you went from Ohio State as a student to working professional in the big city.
Yeah, of course. So I moved to New York about a year and a half ago and I got an internship through one of my clubs at KeyBank, and so some of my club members recommended me to join a program called KeyBank Women in Investment Banking Program. So I did that. I networked with a bunch of different teams at KeyBank, and then eventually found a group through Cain Brothers. It's the smaller healthcare investment bank of KeyBank. And so through there, I found Cain Brothers and interviewed with them for a potential internship for my junior year summer. And through there, I was extended a return offer to come back to New York City full time. And so that's how I eventually moved to New York City about a year and a half ago.
And what was the group? You said you mentioned through a group you got into KeyBank. What was that group?
Yeah, so I joined this club called Buckeye Capital Investors at Ohio State University, and that was just like an investment and finance club. So a lot of people in that club already know they want to get into investment banking, and a lot of those people already know they want to move to New York City. So that's just a really great club for like anyone in finance at Ohio State to join if they're thinking about pursuing anything finance related. They have a lot of great connections and a really big alumni network. So they were able to get me into contact with some other people that worked at Cain and Cain Brothers. So I was able to discuss more with them and just network more.
Yeah. Did you always know you wanted to go into finance?
I think so. I actually, when I was in high school, I was a senior, I think. I did a summer college camp program at NYU, and that was just like an intro to finance course, like paper trading. And so I did that. My dad recommended me to do it because he thought it might be a good fit for me, just to kind of test if I like finance or not. And so I did that. I thought it was really interesting. I got to spend a week in New York City in the NYU dorms and meeting like a bunch of people while I'm still in high school. So that was just like a great use of my time over the summer. And through there, I kind of naturally like gravitated towards finance. So when I applied to Ohio State, I applied for the business school and got in through like that major right away.
And not all your friends are in finance. Did they also find specific clubs that helped them as well?
Yeah, so I'd say a few of my friends are in finance. Some other ones, like my one friend is in marketing. She joined a business fraternity, so you get like the social aspect, but you also get the professional development aspect of a business fraternity, which is great because she didn't want the whole like sorority aspect like a lot of people do. She wanted more of like a well-rounded professional development as well. So she joined a business fraternity and she found a lot of different connections and opportunities through there. So people in that business fraternity have like all different types of experience through like operations, marketing, finance, a bunch of different experience. So through there she was able to network more and that really helped her get connections to find a job eventually. And then some of my other friends, I think they just joined like local clubs for their majors, like nursing or psychology.
So I think the lesson there is when you are in school, utilize the groups that are available to you and make that a big part of the time that you spend on campus, right?
Yeah, definitely. Plus, I mean, when you are applying for jobs, I want to see that you're well-rounded and you're not just doing well in school, but you also have extracurricular involvement. So joining those types of clubs and having leadership in these clubs is like a really great thing for employers as well.
For your internship, obviously you used your network, but nobody's going to just bring you on because somebody else said to. So, what is it that you think helped you stand out and get that interview? And then once the interview is over, to get that invitation back for full time?
Yeah, I'd say honestly in finance, it is a lot of word of mouth referrals. So if someone does really like you, they kind of have the power to push you through the process to continue interviews. And if you have a really good reputation at that place already, there's like a good chance you could be successful in getting that internship, for example. So I was able to connect with the chief administrative officer of Cain Brothers while I was, I think, a sophomore in college and just recruiting for different jobs. And through there, we just had a great connection and we were able to kind of decide what was right for me. And I would tell her, oh, I really like this one group at Cain Brothers and I'm interested in kind of exploring my options there more. So she connected me with some more people in that group. So from there, it's easier to like have a connection to get you in the door and then just like keep going, keep getting recommended to different people to have coffee chats and just network. I'd say that's how I ultimately got the internship is just I just kept talking to other people within the firm.
Okay. Yeah. So, for anybody listening, I know that Pilar is being very humble because it is networking. That's 100% true. You definitely need to work your network. But I've lived next to Pilar for a long time, so I could say that she's definitely professional and has the emotional intelligence needed and the smarts needed. So you need to lean into that too. But I know you're just being very humble right now.
Yeah, I mean I definitely say like during interviews, they do ask like technicals and also behavioral skills, but depending on the firm you're going to, but especially my firm, they were really big on the cultural aspect just because at investment banks, it's hard to have a good culture just because of the long hours you're working. But at my bank, they really stress picking every candidate and the right people for the job. So really just having that, like showing your personality and showing that you could get along well with other people in the firm, that's a really big point that stood out to me as well.
Yeah. So if somebody's in an internship right now and hoping for the same outcome, a full time job, what do you suggest that they start doing today?
Yeah, I'd say probably just getting to know everyone at your company already, grabbing coffees with them, just trying to like get more exposure and FaceTime. But also, what really helped me is during my internship, I obviously didn't know everything, like, and how to do everything in my day-to-day tasks just because it was so new to me. But really
Sure.
just being a hard worker and offering your help for every single task that comes to you or comes to the team, being like, oh, I can take a first pass at that, or I'm happy to do this or send this. That really goes a long way because at the end of the day, it's like you can learn everything on the desk at your new job, but you can't like build a like you have to like come in with a work ethic and show that you really want to be there. And I think that's the most important thing to me, especially now that we have like first year analysts that are now below me because I'm a second year analyst now. I think that's the main thing that sticks out to me is just my first years being so eager to take the first try on everything and they want to be the ones sending everything. So it's like really great to see their initiatives.
Yeah. No, I mean, hard work. I kind of talk about that is if you get a reputation for being a hard worker, that is going to stick with you for your entire career, or the opposite, right? So that's really important to establish that up front. Of course, you want to have a good work life balance and everything, but going in and working your hardest while you are there and be like raising your hand, like you said, that goes a long way.
Definitely.
I want to ask about timeline because a mistake that I made in college is I didn't start looking for an internship until probably way later than I should have, and I was lucky in the way mine turned out. But I there were a dicey couple months there where I was like, oh my god, what am I
Yeah.
gonna do? So when did you start looking for an internship?
I'd say when I was like beginning my sophomore year, I know in finance it's so different because timelines are pushing up so far and like so into the beginning of your college experience that it's just crazy. But I'd say generally like sophomore year, and then I was interviewing in like the springtime of sophomore year, and then I got an offer for an internship in like March of my sophomore year for my junior year summer. I still did networking calls and I still applied for other internships like freshman year and everything, but that's a little bit harder to get internships for like after freshman and sophomore year. So I'd say like really beginning of sophomore year, I focused in on that.
Yeah, I think the sooner the better, and sooner than you probably think, even if you're not in finance, and you can always do more than one internship, which is important to know. So I just want to throw that out there because I know I didn't do it soon enough.
No, definitely. And I know like there's so many career fairs that offer like internship opportunities for people that are maybe like later to the process. So there's so much time, like even if you are a little bit later, like there's still so much opportunity.
Yeah, it did work out for me, but I think that I could have saved myself a little bit of panic,
Yeah,
if I
definitely.
just been a little bit more. But and also I feel like nobody told me. So this is Pilar and I telling you to start early.
Yes, definitely.
All right, so you made a big move to New York City. Did you always know you wanted to go there?
I think so. I when I did my program at NYU when I was in high school, I always thought New York was so exciting and there's just like so much to do there, especially for business. There's just so many more opportunities. I lived in Ohio my whole life, so I thought I definitely want to move to a bigger city and just see what else is out there. And I thought New York was like the perfect way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dig into that a little bit. You found an apartment, you have a roommate. Talk us through maybe what surprised you about that whole situation, because I think that's relatable to anybody moving to a new city.
Yeah, definitely. I think what surprised me a lot is just how hectic it is to find an apartment. I mean, I know people use like Street Easy and different apps to find an apartment in New York, but just the process of touring, finding it, it's so fast. It's like you might find a really good apartment one day and the next day it'll be gone and it just got on the market. Um, it just goes by so fast. So it was really helpful to have my roommate. She was located in New Jersey. So she would go
Mm,
down to the city and she would tour for us and just FaceTime me. So that was super helpful. But I mean, it's hard to not be able to tour an apartment in New York
yeah.
City that you're moving into because you don't really know what you could be getting into. So that's definitely like tough. I feel like if you can go to the city to tour an apartment, that's probably the best solution. Um, and I was lucky enough to have a roommate from college, so I knew her. And so I was a little bit nervous about going through Facebook or anything to find a roommate, but I lucked out that we were both from the same business club and we both actually worked at KeyBank in different groups. So we kind of had that similarity. So that was really nice to have like a
Yeah.
familiar face around. But it's definitely
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
hectic trying to move to a new city.
Yeah. What about your advice financial wise? Somebody is going from, into their very first job. Some people are privileged to have parents or have learned about finances in school. Some people are not. I did not. I didn't know anything going into it. I had to teach myself. But when you're going into a whole new world of, your first job, your first rent maybe, and you have to buy your groceries, you have to pay for utilities, all of these things. What's your best advice for making that huge leap?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think honestly, just trying to budget your expenses before you move to the city. I know I sat down with my parents multiple days and we were just budgeting how much did we think rent would cost, how much would laundry cost, because there's so many different costs that you forget about since I mean laundry likely is not in your apartment. That's probably an additional cost every month. I know
Yep.
I'm spending like $35 a week on laundry. And I mean, groceries are so much more expensive in the city. So trying to just like kind of overestimate your expenses is what I did. And then the first month, I just gave myself free rein. I'm like, let me just see what I spend.
Yeah.
And obviously, I'm conscious, but let me just not restrict myself a ton. Let me just live my first
Yep.
month and see what happens. And it turned out to be a lot better than I expected. I wasn't spending as much. So I think just making sure that you kind of go in with expectations of what you should be spending and then seeing where you can maybe cut your budget in one area or not. I know my first few months I wasn't really shopping a ton because I wanted to make sure I was financially responsible and then also just like utilizing any benefits you have. So I know at work I get free dinners past 7 p.m. So we get like at $35 for dinner. So everyone at my office, we would get dinner and we'd get, say we get like Chipotle, we'd get $35 worth of Chipotle. And we'd save
And then
like,
you have
yeah, then we
leftovers.
save half for the next day for lunch and we eat the other half for dinner. And so that saves on lunch. You don't have to buy as many groceries. So just kind of finding ways you can cut down on expenses. It's always good.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, New York is so expensive, but everywhere is very expensive these days. So I think what I liked hearing is that you did spend like that first month like figuring out your baseline
Mhm.
and then tweaking. And
Yeah,
so that's, I think a good way to go about it. But having gone in prepared too at the same time,
definitely.
taking that time to think through like, no, laundry doesn't just magically do itself,
Yeah.
and
And
it
like,
does cost money.
no, definitely. Especially moving into a new city. Post-grad, I wanted to make sure I wasn't restricting myself of having fun and doing fun activities with my friends and going to new restaurants, but then also just being mindful of how often you should be doing those things. So, like, I try to not get coffee out other than on the weekends. I'll go like try a
Mm,
new fun coffee shop on the weekends, but during the
mm,
week, I'll try to not do that because coffee in New York City is like $8 plus, so
mm.
it definitely adds up.
Yeah, no doubt. What do you think was the most challenging part of the move for you?
Yeah. I'd say maybe just like moving to a new city and not having a whole entire friend group. I think in college you're so used to being around your big friend group and you walk into any street or you walk into any location and you know everyone that's there. So I think having those like familiar faces was really nice in college, but in New York City or any new place you move to, it's like you just all that goes away. And so that was definitely like frightening at first, just like not having my whole support system in the city with me. But I had like two really good friends, and so we would go to like on Facebook friend group dates with like new people, and that was a good way to meet people. And so we met like two new friends that way. So I think that was really helpful, but I say definitely just like not having your friend group in the city. It's probably the hardest.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that is talked about maybe the most from when I'm posting and stuff. People comment the most on things like post-grad loneliness and stuff. And you said you moved knowing somebody, so that's certainly
Yeah.
helpful, but one or two people is different than having a full campus full of people or clubs and all the different things. So I think that's something that people find really difficult. And if you are alone, be careful about who you go on a Facebook
Yeah,
friend date
definitely.
with.
Yeah.
But yeah, you do have to kind of put yourself out there. And something that worked for me was like I joined a book club when I was there. So it was more of like a group of people
Yeah.
instead of you're going to meet one
Yeah.
person. Or I had a friend and they really enjoyed biking. So they joined a biking in Central Park club. And so things like
Right.
that, like it's kind of the same as we were talking about on campus. Like find what you're interested in and then find a group and that will kind of help fill that void.
No, definitely. There's so many like clubs that you can join in New York City, which I feel like so many people forget about. Like my friend joined like a volleyball club on the weekends, and I guess she like met a lot of cool people through that. So there's so many resources that I think a lot of people just kind of forget about. So definitely like making sure to check out those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if you remember this, but we talked I think right before you were moving and you were a little bit worried about like I'm not going to see my family as much.
Mhm.
So how have you been able to, keep in touch with your family when you're only seeing them maybe quarterly or less?
Yeah. So it's really nice because my family is always willing to come visit me. And so they've visited me a few times over the year, which was nice. I feel like it helps. Just I'm a little bit more independent, and so I'm totally content with them kind of visiting me like once every so often. But I actually call them pretty much every day. So I Uber home from work a lot just because we are working late hours, and that's like one of the benefits we get. So in my Ubers, I'll always just call my parents because I have like a 20-minute ride home. So I'm like, this is perfect time to use that time instead of scrolling on my phone, maybe call my parents. So I think that's what's helped me the best is just to like find a little pocket of time to keep in touch with family and friends and obviously in the weekends calling like friends and everything just to stay in touch.
I think making the effort is the biggest thing, right?
Mhm.
Like you just have to actually sit down and do it.
Definitely.
So what do you think is one underrated tip for moving to a new city?
I feel like honestly, it's just important to really get familiar with your neighborhood and where you're living and kind of just explore, like be a tourist in your own city. I know people are like, oh, that's so embarrassing, you're going to Times Square or something, but I think it's so fun that you live in such a cool city. You should be exploring the touristy things and getting to know these things, like take advantage of the different opportunities you can go see. And just like getting familiar with your neighborhoods. I know I go on walks around my same like neighborhood every single day in the mornings. That's a really great way for me to just feel closer like within my community.
Yeah, every day when I would take the subway home, I actually got off at a different stop and explored it and just took a walk
Oh
around.
wait,
So
that's
that
such
was
a
like,
good idea.
yeah, so that was how I kind of learned the city. And like one day I'm like, oh, there's
Hmm.
the UN building,
Where did you
you know.
live in the city?
So I lived at 43rd and 10th for a year, which is Hell's Kitchen, and like that was so cool because I could
Yeah.
see over the Hudson and stuff. And then the I was subletting, so when they came back, and that was such a bummer. I lived on the east side on 79th.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I would walk, up on the east side, and that was a completely different feel from the first year. So
Nice.
I agree with you. Just getting to know your bearings,
Hmm.
it's so important. But then, like, to your point, like cool coffee shops and things that you never
Yeah.
knew existed, like finding those sorts of things that make it feel a little homey really helps.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's so many different videos online on TikTok and everything showing cool new things to do in your city. So I think just like taking advantage and just trying new things and just seeing what's out there.
Yep, yep. And there's a lot of free things too to know.
Definitely.
You don't always have to go and spend money on things either.
Yeah.
All right, so you've talked about working until 7 or later,
Yeah.
because I know you texted me pretty late the one night after work. So, how do you balance, we talked about work-life balance, but how do you balance doing a good job at work and showing up as this hard worker and balancing that with having still a fun personal life and then also keeping your mental health in check? How do you balance all that as a post grad?
Yeah, definitely. That's a good question. I think it's definitely challenging in my field at least because you are working anywhere from 60 to like 100 hours a week, which is definitely a lot. I think what really helped me is just my company in specific is known, like I mentioned before, for having like a really good culture. And so I think that's what just helped me the most. Everyone in my analyst class, we're all like best friends, genuinely like very close friends, and we hang out on the weekends together. We invite each other to all of our birthday parties. Like we're very much a really good support system for each other. So that's been my number one most helpful thing is really having like genuine friends. And I know business is so competitive that you think maybe in this field they'll be like competitive or maybe don't have the best intentions, but genuinely everyone has just really been my best friend. So that's been so helpful. And with social life, it's like we'll do happy hours on Thursdays. If we all finish work at a reasonable time, we'll all go out and get dinner or get drinks. And so that's been really nice. And also just I think my company values our time. They know we do work in a really intense field and we know we're working really long hours, but they do have us submit like staffing logs every week. So if they see we're like gonna have a really busy week, they won't staff us on a new project. Or if they see we're working too many hours, they'll like tell us to take a break this weekend to go home early this day. So they're really just like looking out for us and making sure we're still like mentally healthy as well. And I'd say like sleep is a big part for me. If I'm working until like 3 a.m., which is like very possible, I will just like stop because at some point work can get done in the morning. I think it's really important to make sure you're getting proper sleep or else you won't be able to function properly the next day and then it'll just kind of backfire. It's definitely like hard managing, but I think as you do get older, you get faster at certain tasks and you kind of like know better. So it's getting easier as time goes on.
Yeah. I just read a stat. Sorry, it's gonna not feel good to
Okay.
you, but it's like you lose like your productivity after like 55 hours in the week. So
Yeah.
whatever that means for you, at some point you have to stop because you're not being productive anymore. So
No, definitely. I mean, yeah, I heard this quote and it was like from one of my associates, nothing is urgent when everything is urgent. That's kind of like how our
mhm.
job is. It's like everything is so urgent, but in reality, it's like you can take a break, you can step back, you can get your sleep. go on a walk in the middle of the days. I think that's really helped me is with my friends and I will just go grab coffee or go on a walk outside 10 minutes and that'll just like help us refresh our minds and just like popping over to each other's desks during the day. That's been really nice, just having that little break from work.
And I think something else that you mentioned is important is, I think it is hard to find a job for a lot of people right now, but finding a company that does look out for its employees, a good fit for you, is important as much as possible because you did mention they are looking out for you. So
Mm-hmm.
that's just something to keep in the back of your mind too. And having that conversation during your interview process, maybe not the first question out of your mouth, but just understanding what their view is on that will help you decide if
No,
it's a good fit.
definitely. I mean, I know I'm like the first person to advocate for my company. I'm like, generally it feels like I don't even have to work every day. I mean, obviously I'm working these hours, but when I go to work, it's like I'm going to college. Like I'm with all these people my age and everyone we all like genuinely like vibe really well, so it just is always a fun time at work. So I think that's really helped make work a lot better.
Good, good. So what was like your first big moment of like, I've made it, I belong here, this is me now. Like what's something that stood out to you?
Yeah. Maybe like my first day on the job for like my full-time role. I remember like I went back and forth to like my work route multiple days before, and I'm like making sure I know how to get on and off the subway, and just like being there alone in the subway, like going to work. And my parents just left. I'm like, oh my God, this is real. This is like happening. And I was like scared, but I'm like, this will be really fun. And then just like wearing my suit to work, and I see everyone else starting their first day of the job, commuting on the subway and finally getting my like badge to key into the office. I'm like, this is all so real now. Um, yeah, I'd say that. It was just like so surreal. I'm like, when would I ever think I'm like working on Wall Street and in New York City?
I love it. I love it. That's so awesome. That's very cool. All right, so big picture, how can students make the most of their college years to set themselves up for success after graduation?
I'd say probably just taking advantage of your resources. And I feel like a big thing for me is, at least in my time in college, like AI was really up and coming. And so a lot of people just utilize AI for a lot of work and essays and whatnot. But I think really taking the time to actually understand the work you're doing in college, like it will benefit you later on, and you're taking these classes for a reason. And I feel like so many people just try to just like knock out the assignments and get it over with and focus on other things. But I think really just tuning into what like the objective of these assignments are is really important because just joining work, it's like, oh, I remember learning this in accounting class, and I maybe should have paid attention more in that class. So, just like really trying to get the most out of your education, and then just like trying to use your resources, like we discussed, like joining clubs and meeting new people, and just have fun. Like senior year, especially, just have fun with your friends for like the last memories.
Oh yeah, definitely don't skip the fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
because you have your whole the rest of your life to work for sure. But I want to go back to what you said about AI. So we've been talking about leaning into AI and making sure you know how to use it because companies want people who are adaptable and able to learn the new technologies. And I don't think you're saying don't do that, but what you're saying is don't rely entirely on it to get through college because you still need to learn.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think AI is great, and we use it at work now too. We have like an AI built into our system, so we can have them make slide decks for us. We can have them make commentary, do formulas in Excel. So it's really great, and being able to utilize that is really awesome and really helpful, and speeds up our job too. But I think in college, I remember just a lot of different tasks could be done with AI and just plugging it into ChatGPT and having them just spit out different like work products. And yeah, that might be helpful for some general education classes, but for your core business classes or your core major classes, I think trying to really use your brain to learn about what you're actually being taught instead of kind of relying on what online tells you and just like plugging it into an assignment. I think obviously A is great for like supporting you in your tasks, but I think just trying to realize the purpose of what you're doing is always helpful. Because even in work, it's like, yeah, we're doing a lot of work in Excel and a lot of muscle memory, but the big picture is when you're on a client call and they ask you a question, you have to be able to contextualize that and be like, oh, yeah, this is what this means. This is why we're doing this. But if you're like letting AI do it for you, you're not really understanding the core purpose of it. And I think that's what I've really learned starting my job is just you need to understand the deeper layers.
Yeah. How how are you improving your skill set? You said talking to clients, and I think this is something that because AI is so big now, companies want good communicators, right?
Mm.
They need people who can get in front of clients or prospects or whatever it may be, doing things like speaking and building relationships that AI can't. So, how are you, everybody can get better. I'm not saying you're not good at it. I'm just saying, like, how are you getting better of being in front of people and communication skills?
Yeah, I think it really just takes time and practice. I know before starting this job, I know like my first few months, I wasn't very good at communicating with clients and communicating my work that I've done. And we have quarterly feedback, so that's been really helpful. So they'll get feedback from our associates and different people we work with, and they'll let us know how we can improve and what we're doing well. So that's been really good to see what we can improve on. And just as time goes on, when you're getting more into like a financial model or like a PowerPoint deck and you're learning more about it, it gets easier to speak on it just because you know more things about it. So I think just time, it takes practice to improve really speaking and just like stepping up in your role. I know like my company emphasizes if you're thinking about becoming an associate one day, try to already start playing up as an analyst, try to play up as an associate and take the extra initiative to do extra work and just prove yourself. And so I think that's what I've been trying to do is just how can I take the extra step to be better and show that I'm taking on more responsibility. So just gonna talk more on client calls and just like being someone that people can rely on.
Hmm. What's your view on that feedback? I think sometimes young people are paralyzed when they get feedback. They're like, oh, I'm doing a terrible job or they hate me. But
Yeah.
what's your view on it?
Yeah. I mean, realistically, your feedback shouldn't be anything negative, honestly, because at least in this field, people are pretty like ambitious. So as long as you're trying your hardest, you're being detail oriented, feedback like shouldn't be a bad thing unless you're like really struggling. I think feedback is more like, oh, you could maybe lean into this skill more, maybe try doing more financial modeling and maybe take on more initiative here. They're really just trying to give you feedback to help you and become better and so you can learn more. So I think feedback is a good thing. And obviously it's scary, like especially I don't like being confrontational, so it's awkward for me sometimes, but in reality it's a good thing to know what you can improve on. But they also tell you what you've been doing really well and how you've been a really good value add to your team. So I think feedback's a good thing.
Yeah. I heard something that put it into perspective of like if they are taking their time and their effort to give you feedback, it's actually an investment in your future.
Definitely.
So that's how you should take it. Like for where I'm at, we're constantly talking to clients. And so, like, my boss is always like telling people, like you said, a whole lot, or,
Yeah,
whatever the case may be. And it's not nice to hear in that moment, but it sure helps later on. So,
definitely.
don't worry if you're getting feedback. It's actually a really good thing.
No, definitely. And it's nice to see people like higher than you offer up time of their day to walk you through different tasks or to walk you through feedback. It's just nice to see that even though we are so busy, people are still willing to walk you through different things and take time out of their day to help you improve.
All right. So, I think being a senior or junior senior in college and looking out at post grad, it's very easy to feel behind or to overthink things. So, what is your advice to somebody in that spot right now, feeling those big feelings?
Yeah, I'd say it's definitely normal. I think that's such a valid reaction from people in that age because it is a stressful time. Everyone's getting jobs and everyone wants a job post grad, but everything does really work out how it's supposed to. I know almost half of my friends didn't have jobs when we graduated and didn't really get jobs until a full year out or 6 months out. And I think it's really just timing aligns. I know it may sound really like scary right now not having a job, but a lot of my friends were able to travel in that year that they didn't have a job and they were able to invest in themselves and just get like acclimated to life post grad since it is such a big change. And now they're doing like great in their job and they love their job. So I think don't feel pressured when everyone else is around you getting a job right after graduation. Timing will just work out for you as long as you're putting in the effort.
Yeah, I would agree with that. All right, Pilar, last question. If you could go back to your senior year self, what would you say to her now?
I'd probably say everything will work out in the end and to not doubt your capabilities because I feel like especially as a girl, you're like, oh my God, I don't know anything. Like at least that's how I was. I was like, how am I going to work in finance? I won't know as much compared to like the boys, etc. But honestly, like joining my job, it's like all of us are on an even playing field. I've have learned so much and I was capable of everything that I did and like I earned it. And so I think just proving to yourself that you can do these things and being confident in your skill set will just take you far.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure you're kicking butt. Well, thank you so much. I think this was super helpful for anybody listening, and especially those people in junior, senior years of college. I think they're going to learn so much. And I just know you're really doing well in the city, so I appreciate you sharing all the knowledge.
Oh, yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. This was a good conversation. I hope this helps some people.
Oh, absolutely.